All right, I think we're live. Welcome to the 30th episode of the Card Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. Oh, I think I might have started too early. Welcome to the 30th episode of the Card Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. I am your host, Denny Cards, self proclaimed master of none and jack of all trades. And thank you for tuning in because, as I like to paraphrase Jay Z, you could be listening to any podcast in the world right now, but you're here with me. But you're not here just with me. You're here with Rob Girard, the sports card therapist. There he is. He gave a wave. We're going to get to him in a moment here, but congratulations to, I guess, this podcast. We finally hit the 1,000 plays milestone across all episodes. Rob helped get us there. He did just like leapfrogged. It was probably the most listened to and also most appreciated podcast, the one we did in episode 29. So I thank each and every one of you for downloading and listening, and of course I very much thank the first, I guess, repeat guest, because we just left so much on the table from our first conversation and people really liked it. I think would you agree, Rob? Like I hope you had a good time the first time.
Yeah, man, and thank you for having me back. It's first time was definitely fun. We got into some pretty deep stuff, and it was welcomed for sure. So you do a great job. So keep it up, man, and congrats on
Oh,
hitting 30.
thank you so much. Yeah, 30 is the new 20. I don't know. Anyway, um, no, I think what real people really liked was we were having some really good discussions about things that are happening in the hobby. We're talking a little bit about cards, but mostly about psychology and just everything around cards, right? I mean, we come for the cards, but we stay for the people and, the stories, the relationships. Someone recently asked me, well, what do you collect? Or, and I said experiences. Who do you collect? People, people's stories. I think it's easy for me to say, oh, I PC this person or that person, but we all have our collections, right? And if people see my feed, they can see the cards that I collect. So um how do you like, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this hobby, it is all about the cards. I mean, if it wasn't for the cards, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for the
Right,
cards, then this would be nothing different than a social club, right? And there's plenty of
right.
social clubs out there I can join. But for me, the foundation of everything that I do is definitely about the cardboard. It's definitely
Right.
about the cards. And then I think and I just said this, I was a guest on another podcast, and it probably came to me because they actually used it as a clip. But I
Mhm.
had said that the best part of the national was the cards, but 1B to that, like a
Mhm.
very close second was the people. And
Right.
so yeah, without a doubt, I don't know if I know for a fact I would not be as immersed in the hobby if it was not for the people. I know I would be here though, because the cards are the foundation of everything
Right. But
for
I
me.
think the last episode, you and I both talked about how when we were in this hobby, younger, earlier when we were adults. I think some people, they went straight from teenage years to, like their late 30s or 40s. But for us, like we were there in the 2007 to 2012 range, at least for me. And I think you and I both lamented how we couldn't find our communities, we couldn't find people because Instagram didn't exist, social media was in its infancy. So yeah, the people really is, I mean, it's 1A and 1B is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting though is when you think about other hobbies, I mean, you know I like to sometimes pick on crocheting because I just couldn't see myself crocheting, but there is no like gambling or breaking aspect, right, to other hobbies. Like if you love bike riding, you just go ride a bike. But there isn't this like aspect of what's in this pack of things you like to collect.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking right as you're saying that, I'm thinking, well, if people love fishing and they go out on a fish charter or a shark charter
Mm.
and they're not
Ooh.
guaranteed to catch a shark, but that's their goal. If they don't
Mm.
come back from that, is that kind of like gambling? I don't know. It's kind of, I'm sure there's definitely levels to it. When it comes to, the card hobby though, um, they have really figured out a way to really come super close to gambling. I
Hmm.
mean, they've come incredibly close to the lottery. Like the state
Yeah.
lottery, like they've pretty much like emulated. It feels like that. And I could remember the first time I ever learned about exactly what breaking was, and
Mm.
I was just kind of baffled by it. I was like, what? So you're telling me that it's $30 a spot and there's no guarantee of a card?
Hmm.
So to me, like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm not a gambler, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, I know I'm not a gambler. Um, and I've just always liked a sure thing. I mean, we talked last episode how, I've always just kind of bought singles. I did
Right.
not rip a ton of wax as a kid. It was just always singles. I'm always kind of going for a sure thing, I guess, even if I'm selling myself a little short, I do like a sure thing.
No, absolutely. It's really interesting because there is certainly a randomness when it comes to something like fishing, which I'm not very good at. It's not my hobby, but um, I think it's like the randomness plus the money put in, right? I mean, when you say $30 spot, I mean, you'd be lucky nowadays, right? With the cost of hobby boxes, or again, when you and I were growing up, like we're pack hunting. You'd be lucky to buy a box. Nowadays, it's like people are buying cases, right? It's like you're looking for the case hit. The box hit isn't even good enough anymore.
Yeah, and I just can't wrap my head around it. I really can't because just when it comes to and by all means, I'm not trying to put down opening up boxes or ripping wax or
Oh yeah,
anything like
yeah.
that. That's a
Hmm.
huge part of the hobby and a huge
Hmm.
part of the enjoyment of the hobby for many.
Yeah.
But for me, when it comes to buying a case of cards, right? Say a case is, I don't know, I'm going to make up some numbers. I'm probably going to be way off here, but say a
Oh
case is 3K,
yeah.
right? A case is 3K, and you know the case hit. I mean, what would a case hit be worth? And it obviously depends on the card, depends on this,
Right.
depends on that, but
Right.
the chances of you pulling that top 1% from that
Hmm.
set, that top 1% is, I mean, it's got to be like 1 in 10,000, right? I mean, it's astronomical sometimes the odds.
Hmm.
And to me, I would rather take that 3K and just buy the sure thing. I could probably go out and buy that exact case hit that I'm chasing.
Oh
But
yeah. I mean, yeah.
I realize though that by doing that, you're taking a lot of the excitement out of it. You're taking a
Hmm.
whole experience away from someone. So I do get that. But what I would say is there's also a great experience that comes with the hunt of
Hmm.
hunting down a single card. So, I think it depends what you like, what your wheelhouse is, I guess. But I know for me, I would much prefer a sure thing. I hate losing money. I lose enough money on buying and selling cards in itself. I don't
Yeah.
want to lose even more by buying cases and buying in the breaks. Shout out to the breakers, though.
Hey, what we have a delicate ecosystem. I think
Yeah.
like a New Year's resolutions post I said was, I'm gonna try to again. This is the premise of the podcast is trying to empathize and try to see how other people live to try to get an understanding of them and to really appreciate them. So, I do plan on having a chapter on breaking after. I think my next chapter is going to be about grading. But when it comes down to this ecosystem we have, it's like we're all needed. I mean, sometimes people might say, "Oh, I don't like this particular animal in the ecosystem, and it's invasive or it's bad," but you need that particular species so that so that there's this whole food cycle within the ecosystem. So, yeah, I think yeah, shout out to the good breakers. What I've said in the past, I'll say now is good breakers are good for the hobby, bad breakers are bad for the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well said.
yeah, thank you. Praise from my sports card therapist. Thank you so much. So, what I would like to do today is get into some group questions. I almost make this into like a group therapy session. But before I do, I did want to mention something for people who are watching on video, which, this is intended for optimization of audio. I'm not wearing glasses today. I do. When I work out or when I play basketball, I don't like to wear glasses. I like to put contacts on so I can see. And my glasses are not novelty glasses; they're actually very strong, thick prescriptions. But I wanted to kind of get your help. Before we get into group therapy, I wanted to do a little individual therapy because I feel like I didn't get to do that last time, and I really wanted to try that with you if that's okay.
Yeah, some, I guess, off the record, play therapy.
Play
As long as
hobby,
we're,
yes.
yeah, I'm not,
No act.
I'm definitely not going to, uh, on the air say that I'm going to give anyone any kind of psychotherapy. That's for sure. But yes, we can do some
Exactly.
play psychotherapy for sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for indulging.
Yep.
So you know, someone again, I'm kind of like joking around with it. I'm dancing around with it, but you are actually a licensed psychotherapist, and
Mhm.
is that right? Psychotherapist. I'm
Yep.
sorry if I get it wrong. Okay.
Yep.
So, and I'm sorry we didn't do an intro, but I feel like if people listen to the last episode, episode 29, this is episode 30, so hopefully they, get an understanding of you
Yep.
and who you are. But the last time we recorded was last Saturday. And I guess I could put a date on it. Today's August 10th, which is a Thursday, and last Saturday was August 5th. And so Sunday, August 6th, I posted something on Instagram, and a comment came through, and I won't read it verbatim, but basically the gist was, you know, do you even collect cards? Again, kind of go into this whole like, what, who do you PC? What do you PC? I feel like that's been a recent, I don't know, like criticism of me. And then the person was like, well, it seems like you're just plastering a billboard across your forehead. They called me fat. And so now I'm like, not that I'm like, I need to give oxygen to this person, but I'm like, you know what? Like, I didn't like the way I looked in national. So I'm just going to like try to work out some more. It was already in my plans to try to get in shape after national, because I was like, that's my goal where I'm going to just start hitting the ground running. So it's not like I'm saying this one person motivated me to, but so I'm not wearing my glasses. I have my contacts on. But yeah, I kind of wanted to get your advice and guidance about how to deal with that type of negativity and those comments in our space.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I want to say, any kind of online bullying or shaming or name calling, I'm not here for that. I don't think anyone is, especially in this hobby where most of us are adults. There's definitely a younger population in the hobby. When it comes to putting out content, I've said it many times on my podcast. When I choose to put out content, and that content can be in the form of podcast, it could be on YouTube, or it could be content just on social media. It could be content on my Instagram profile. When you choose to do that, you become public property. You become really, you're putting yourself out there for the scrutiny of what people have to say and what people think. And I think it's terrible if people are, it sounds like they definitely are, saying some negative things to you online. Um, you know, I I would never try to victim blame by any means. I would say that your approach could, probably your responses to, I think, some of it probably might warrant other people being like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go at him too." Because I've seen that if someone has criticized you, you basically screenshot it and put them on blast.
Yeah.
So people, I mean, I wouldn't take that approach
Hmm.
personally, but we're two different people.
Right.
I've gotten my fair share of criticisms for sure. I will typically block them, which then
Hmm.
ends up deleting the comment because now they're blocked from whatever
Right.
thread it is or whatever, and then I keep it moving. My blocked list is very long, and it's still growing, and personally, I don't want to give any kind of shine or any kind of light to any of that stuff. Not
Yeah.
to say like you want to sweep it under the rug, um, but I know in a DM, you and I had spoke, and it was something similar to that. And if you'll just give me a moment, I'm gonna pull up the DM real quick because I thought about what I wanted to say to you, and I felt
Okay.
like, what was that?
No, sure, absolutely. Did you
Yeah.
want me to
So
kind of like talk for time, or you have it pulled
no,
up
no,
real
no,
quick?
no. Yeah, I got it right here.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm seeing you had posted the guy's profile and exactly what he said, so everyone can see who it is that said something negative to you.
Mm,
I said, I said, it's unfortunate that you're getting negative comments like this. I'm sorry to hear it. What I will say is that I have gotten a large share of negativity as well. It comes with the territory. Just block them and move on. Don't let it rent space in your head. I often think of the quote with Denzel Washington from American Gangster, where the mobster said to him, he said, Frank, success took a shot at you. He said, you can be successful and have enemies, or you could be unsuccessful and you could have friends. And I like, so that always kind of resonates with me, right?
Mhm.
And I followed that up with my comment to you. I said people also get very protective over the hobby. People get very protective over the hobby.
Mhm.
And my exact quote was, people get very protective over pump and dumpers and clout chasers in this hobby. And since you're new to putting out content, I don't think you've built up enough trust in this hobby to post certain things without getting that hate. And I followed that up with, and I want to say, I don't think you're a clout chaser. I don't think you're a pump and dumper by any means. But if no one knew who you were a year ago and now you're just flooding people's timelines with very brash content, um, you have a very good chance of getting put in certain categories. I could think of certain like content creators who, like, a year ago I didn't know who they were, and now it's like they're everywhere and they don't have much credibility in people's eyes. You know what I mean? Because they haven't been around enough to kind of build up that trust. And I know,
Yeah.
like me, with when I came back into the hobby 3 years ago and started the podcast, I looking back on it, I didn't realize I was doing it, but looking back on it, I did kind of dip my toe in, and I was, slowly, putting out episodes, and slowly I started bringing on some guests, and by episode 30, 40, I think I really had started to build up some credibility. And I think the reason why people might, and I have no idea what your page looks like. I haven't looked at your Instagram page, to be honest, but if if there's if the content is outweighing card posts, people might look at that a certain way. And I think
Mhm.
that's why you might be getting comments like, well, what do you collect? Do you
Mhm.
even collect? Because people get protective over, what they call plants. They feel like someone's like planted in the hobby to be
Mm.
whatever, and that's definitely not always the case. I'm good friends with Stephanie Mama Breaks, and I've had her on my show many times, hung out with her in person and all that stuff. And there are people that criticize her of being a plant, like a company planted her there, or companies planted her there.
Yeah.
They're propping her up, and I'm like, "That's ridiculous. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous." I know for a fact Stephanie is not. However, I could understand why people might look at certain people a certain way, because when someone starts flooding your timeline when 6 months ago you had no idea who they were, it feels kinda, and that's probably a credit to you, because if what's worse than getting negative comments?
Nothing, right?
No comments.
Right.
That's what's worse. And I'll tell you what, a good friend told me that, and that was Chris Hoge from Card Ladder. He told me that a
Shout
couple
out.
years ago. He said, "Listen, man, don't worry, soak in those negative comments, because there's so many people out there that are trying to do what you do, and they're not
Mhm.
even moving the needle." He said,
Right.
"You're moving the needle." And he was right. I had no idea my
Mm.
show would grow into what it is today, but at the time it was like, I had to learn to kind of grow thick skin, I guess. And I'm not justifying any of the negativity, so I hope it's not
Mhm.
coming across like that.
No.
I'm just saying that I can understand why some people, and I'm sure there's some people that still look at me like that, even though I still have my cards from the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. Just because I wasn't at the forefront, or on people's timelines all the time
Mhm.
10 years ago, doesn't mean I can't be today.
Exactly. I may be new to Instagram, or like, almost a year in, but I've been collecting, as a little kid, as a young adult, and coming back now. But yeah, my credentials or my bona fides, I actually say this all the time, is I'm wholly unqualified to have this podcast. And I think that's what makes it fun. I think some people love having a different perspective. I am coming at it with, like, a kid's eyes or a novice's eyes, because that's who I am. So yeah, I'm not an industry insider. So but I do appreciate it. I mean, yeah, you and I have very different we're similar in many respects and then dissimilar in others, but that's what makes us human. That's what makes us special and different, right? So I definitely respect
Do you
you
have any
giving me some.
pushback on what I said? Is there anything that you're like, you know what, Rob? Nah,
Hmm.
it feels like
It,
you're like letting bully slide or anything
No,
like
no, no, no. The only, and it's not a pushback, but it's more of a comment to what you said, which is I've heard other people say that to me, and people are, hey, don't let it get to you, and don't give oxygen to the trolls and all that. But for me, it's like I get what you're saying with putting your face out on the internet. Shouldn't I expect that people are going to come after me? Like that's a really good point. I've had other people say that to me too, but it's almost like, yes, it theoretically, like I understand it in theory, but when it actually happens, it still like stings, right? And it's almost like people are like, don't let it get to you, don't let it, don't care about it. But it's almost like I'm also the type of person who appreciates when people say, nice things or praise, because that matters to me too. So it's not like I can only have the good stuff matter and then the bad stuff not matter. I think that I'm human, and so the whole point of this podcast is to humanize all aspects of people in the hobby. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, for instance, like we know that there are two certainties, the classic saying, there are two certainties in life, death and taxes. But when you have a death in the family, and like let's say it's from a prolonged battle with an illness, it doesn't mean that you mourn any less because when it actually happens, because you still, like, it sucks when it happens, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I read it and it's like, I mean, we're several days past it, and I kind of want to make this be part of my, like, therapy session to talk about it with you. But it stings a whole lot less than it did 4 days ago, and it's going to sting a lot less as I continue to go along. But I just wanted to definitely talk about it, because that is the mental health in the hobby, mental health in social media, and you're the guest who's who's really good at that stuff.
Yeah, and let me tell you, man, I've had people make 30-minute YouTube videos just about me, trying to tear me down and listen to every single episode and try to find any kind of discrepancies I've said. Um, so, I mean, let me tell you something. In my experience, so I've had like watchdogs like all over me, right? For
Hmm.
what reason, I have no idea. I really don't. I hear what they're saying, but there's nothing there for whatever it is they're saying. I'm a
Hmm.
phony. I'm this. I'm that. Um, when I've blocked watchdogs before, they
Hmm.
lose it. The thing that they hate the most, I can't say for everyone, but they want something to hate. Let me tell you something. When people start criticizing you and leave you negative comments, chances are they're your biggest fans. There's such a thin line between a hater and a fan. It's unbelievable. So, when I look at all my streams that I've acquired from over the years on my podcast, I do sit back and think sometimes, I wonder how many of these streams are from people that absolutely hate me, but they can't stop listening.
Hmm.
It's like there are certain watchdogs out there that if Jeff Wilson disappeared, those watchdogs would disappear too.
Hmm.
Those people that are constantly criticizing him, because the second Jeff Wilson drops an episode, the second he drops anything, guess what? These watchdogs have a new episode up of their own an hour later.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't see anything. I don't see any in any part of it that would be helpful to do what you did, which is like screenshot and then try to shame that person, right? Because I
Yeah.
get the whole like public shaming. Maybe you wanted to try to have him canceled from the hobby. I don't know. I
Mm.
don't even care. All
Oh,
I know is if I would have just blocked the guy,
yeah.
I probably would have been upset about it for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I would have
Hmm.
forgot about it by
Yeah.
dinner. But the
Mm,
fact,
okay.
if I would have posted it and now people are commenting on it, and now for the next 3 days I'm going back and responding to comments, now it's in my head. Now it's not just surface level. Now it's probably penetrated me to an extent, and
Yeah.
it gave that guy more clout as well. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And one thing that, I feel like I've said it a million times over the course of my life, working with people and even looking at like myself and family members. The phrase hurt people.
mm,
So when people are hurt, or when people have been hurt, they look to hurt others. So when someone tries to come at me, I really do just look at them with, I don't want to say pity, but I do look at them, and I almost like, I immediately forgive them. I'm like, listen, they are so off base with what they're saying. It doesn't even make sense to me. Even if it did, if someone called me bald because I'm bald, like, what am I going to screenshot it and try to shame the guy to the hobby? I would lose so much credibility if I started doing that.
mm.
People would look at me as a joke.
Gotcha. Well,
And
I hope people.
I'm not saying people look at you as a joke. I'm not trying to say that. But
Yeah.
I know me with what I've built up, I would
Right.
instantly lose credibility in the hobby amongst listeners and content consumers if I started trying to shame people that were coming at me, even if I felt
Yeah.
like it was justified.
So it's interesting. I think my end goal wasn't to shame the person, although their name was there. I have blocked that person since then, but I think what I wanted to do was document my journey to show people like, I mean, that was just like one person. I've gotten some strange DMs and audio messages from, I don't even know if you call them followers or people who are supportive. It's like this, like you said, like a borderline. um I don't know if they like me or don't like me, but they're passionate, and I think we do want passion in the hobby. And I know there are people who are trying to be the gatekeepers or watchdogs and all that stuff, but for me it's just like, I felt it, and then I wanted to release it. And then maybe I did want some, you know not nothing again. I didn't want people to attack that guy. I think what I wanted was to put that out there to show that this sucks, we shouldn't have these type of comments. But also, like, the amount of outpouring, like when I actually started getting like teary later that day, it was not from the guy who posted that, but it was from the people telling me to, persevere and to continue on. And the support, the love and support,
Yeah.
is what really got me choked up. I mean, I'm not, I'm a empath, or, I try to see good in people. And even that person, when he made that comment about me, and my weight, it was after me trying to show him some empathy. So I get it. We're different people. I think people don't expect that from you because you've built, like, your brand is like above board and it's clean and it's good. But I think for me, I'm still like raw. I'm still learning, right? I'm still like still trying to figure out like what I'm doing all of this for, or like, just, I like to think I'm having fun, but there are definitely sometimes when things are not fun, like that type of, comment or that post. But I think this is a great discussion to have because I don't know, I just don't hear a lot of people talking about this stuff.
Definite great discussion. Um, like I said, my block list is so long, and it's not because I don't think I've ever blocked anyone that didn't randomly come at me or try to get slick with
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
people still do, you know what I mean? It's like the
Mm.
more people I reach, the more ears or eyes that get laid on me. I'm going to continue to, get that kind of stuff. And for me, like you said, like, that's not my brand, quote unquote, my brand. Like, I don't even know what my brand is. I don't have an agent. I'm not a brand designer. I'm not a
Yeah.
marketer by trade. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, so I'm really just being me, and this is
Yeah.
who I am. And my wife has always said to me, she's like, the biggest knock on you is you just forgive people instantly. You give
Wow.
everyone the benefit of the doubt. Someone could hit me with a car, and I would get up and be like, you know what? They probably, just something with just giving
Bad
them the
day.
benefit of the doubt. My wife
Yeah.
is like, you let people walk all over you, and I'm like,
Oh.
people definitely do not walk all over me. I have and I have great boundaries. I can be
Mhm.
firm, assertive when I need to be. But yeah, I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And chances are, the people that are saying that to you, I would imagine they might be looking at you being and thinking like, how is this guy at National and how is he posting these videos and doing all this? I didn't even know who he was 6 months ago. I've been in this
Right.
hobby 5 years and
Mm,
no one gives a crap about me, but Denny is everywhere. Like for all you know,
right.
that's what they're thinking. So, you know,
Yeah, well, I definitely, might have snuck in. I have to check the statute of limitations in the state of Illinois for that one, but, so I gotta say, the best way the word brand is icky, influencer, it's icky. I don't think I'm an influencer, I think I'm a content creator. I love being a content creator, but when it comes to influence, I'm not trying to peddle anything or sell anything. I would like to think maybe I inspire people. Like, I would love to people have come to me saying, watching your content makes me want to do other things in the hobby. And I love that. I really do. But the best way I've heard brand explained to me is, what are people saying about you when you're not in the room? That's your brand. And I really thought about that. And I was like, wow, that's a really good way of putting it, right? It's like when you are not present and people will talk. And if you don't have a brand, then people won't talk. But if you do have a brand, what are they saying about you? I don't know what people are saying about me, but I know that what I try to do is, and it's not even trying. I don't go out of my way to do it, but I want to show people like behind the scenes, behind the curtains, how when I do things, how I do things, why I do things. And also my brand is, yeah, I very much say all the time, like I'm Asian American, I'm Korean American, and I've definitely grappled with my Asian American identity in and out of the hobby. But I like to share that stuff because maybe someone's listening who is Asian American, Korean American, being like, "Oh my gosh, like I do too," and I'm not the only one. So um,
yeah.
I'll stop there.
No, no, I think that's awesome, man. I think um really I don't know many people. I don't think I've come across many people in life who are 100% comfortable and 100% love themselves. And if they do, that's amazing. That's awesome. Maybe you could give me some tips on how to do it. Because there's definitely things that I've struggled with as well. And I love that you discuss your race and ethnicity and that you highlight that, and because I think we all need to celebrate our differences, right? And really celebrate what makes us unique.
Hmm.
I never want to just say, oh, well, we're all people. I treat everyone the same. It's like um so when it's come to cultural competency in the workplace, that's something that I've I've developed curriculums and give presentations on cultural competency before. And I think like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, cultural competency meant treating everyone the same. Everyone's the same, everyone is equal, and treat him just the way you would treat her, and all that good stuff, right? And I think the message is good there, but now the modern, the ultra modern, I'll use hobby terms, the ultra modern, you know, ideology behind cultural competency is to respect and celebrate everyone for their individuality, without discrimination. So I love, don't look at everyone as the same. It's like, no, if that person is Dominican, then recognize their heritage, recognize that they are Dominican and that they've had a different upbringing and they have different values. And if you are Asian American, recognize that and help them celebrate that and ask questions. And that's something that I've been, I think something that I take a lot of pride in my day job and in my personal life, but really my day job, and it's kind of bled over, I think, is that I am always asking questions. I'm always asking questions. I'll ask, if I'm working with, you know, a client, and they are of a different race, I'll ask them, hey, do you prefer this or do you prefer that? Do you prefer this or it's like, I've asked, plenty of African Americans or black people, do you prefer black or do you prefer African
Hmm.
American? And um, just I'm just using that as an example, but I'm
Yeah,
I'm just always asking questions, especially with LGBTQ,
right.
with that ever evolving, um, uh, you know, what's going on. I'm always asking questions because I'm always learning. I try to remain teachable, and I think by
Totally.
asking a lot of questions in my day job, that's I think transferred over into my content. And in all reality, if I collect cards and you collect cards, like, okay, I'm sure we collect different things, but that's really it. So, what makes our content our content? I think when we
Hmm.
can bring a piece of who we are as a person, a piece of maybe what we do for work, anything that can kind of separate us from one another in terms of content, I think is huge.
Remaining teachable. I mean, there's so many great things you said, but that really hit me hard in a great way. Wow, I love that. Thank you so much. I mean, with me, we're gonna get to these questions. We're gonna do the group therapy session, but being Asian American, there is a saying in Asian cultures where it's like if you're the nail that sticks out the highest, you're gonna get hammered down. And when I grapple with my Asian American identity, I do sometimes get uncomfortable with self promotion, and I feel like if I'm not my own biggest cheerleader, then who's gonna do it for me? But when I think about content creation and when I think about just the going from the old way, the vintage way of looking at color, which is being colorblind, to the like I like you using the term ultra modern, which is I want people to see my color because
Yeah.
by virtue of my race, I had a different I may have had a different upbringing. So and then there's also, of course, like the socioeconomic conditions and all that that all make us different. But yeah, I mean, I really appreciate what you said. And one more thing I did want to say, which is when you have so much content out there, hours and hours of podcasts and videos and reels and content, like people want to like find something to find. Oh well, he said this one time and then he said things another time. But we evolve. Again, remaining teachable. You and I can say something episode one, and I'm not saying that we would have been wrong, but later on, our thought processes could change, like because we again remain teachable.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love this. Okay. I'm gonna skip past all the stuff that I wanted to ask you to help me through it, like sponsorships, burnout, family, hobby guilt, hobby quantity versus quality time. I'm skipping past all of this. I'm gonna go to the first question from the group from Instagram, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, Zach Cersei. I'm gonna start with an easy, fun one. He asks, and I think he knew who you were. How many cards can you fit on a Harley?
How many cards on a Harley? I think the real question is how many slabs can you fit in cargo short pockets? Okay, because on the Harley, I likely would not I would not bring any cards with me on the Harley unless they were in my cargo pockets because my cargo pockets are like a high-tech safe. Only one person knows the combination. You know what I'm saying?
That is awesome. I love it. Great answer to that. I'm gonna get a little bit deeper with this one. Watch the Breaks asks, "Why do I collect?"
So many different reasons. I think we talked about it last time. My collecting is nostalgia driven, and um, you know, oftentimes people collect to fill a void. So I would imagine there's probably some sort of void that is there with me, and something that we touched on last time as well. I think probably that void for me is my father. So um, that you know then we collect, we try to fill that void, and we realize like, wow, this is really fun, this is really cool, I really enjoy collecting these cards. So then it kind of snowballs and branches off into something different.
Love that answer. All right, I know we touched on fatherhood last time, and I don't want to start tearing up here. So let's I'll listen to Cats in the Cradle after this. How about that? Okay.
Great song.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. 1980s Cards with Dan asks, and it's kind of like the why do I collect, but he asks, why do I keep buying new product boxes when I think we're in another junk wax era? Is this insanity?
Well, It sounds like he's talking about two different products. Why do I keep on buying product makes me
Mm,
think that he's talking about packs or
yeah,
boxes
right.
of cards.
Yes.
And then he's saying junk slab. Did he say junk slab or junk
Oh,
wax?
junk wax.
Oh, junk wax.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I tell you, that's a big part of the reason why I don't collect ultra modern.
Hmm.
I don't collect ultra modern, and even the modern started to get out of control. Like right here, I'm looking at just sitting right next to me. I have two 2008 gold refractors. So they're
Hmm.
both Eli Manning gold refractors.
Ooh.
One is autographed, and then one and that's a 10, and one is raw. So as incredible as these cards are, this is modern from 2008, so 15 years ago. There were still 199 of these gold refractors. So this is numbered out
Oh.
of 199. So even the modern stuff, in my opinion, has been kind of printed a lot. And I've never been a fan of manufactured rarity.
Hmm.
I want to collect something because I want to collect it, not because a card company is telling me I should. Now, if you start talking about RPAs, if you start talking about the 2003 exquisite LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, that whole set, even all the way up into a National Treasures, you know, RPA Luka Doncic out of 99. But why does an RPA, if it's out of 99, why are you then making out of 49, out of 25, out of
Hmm.
15, out of 10,
Hmm.
out of 3? Like that's when it starts getting that manufactured rarity. It's not that rare anymore.
You're so good at this. All right. So the follow-up question to that, Richard Price 1909 asks, why don't so this question I was going to ask later on, but I'm bringing it up because we're talking about junk wax era. If that is the case, Richard Price 1909 asks, why don't more hobbyists buy into graded signed vintage?
Oh, Richard, my friend. Um, I tell you, so that is something that I've been journeying down that lane for probably like the last 18 months now of just buying signed vintage. And I've had a lot of signed vintage collectors DMing me upset and saying that I'm actually affecting the market and that I'm causing prices to rise because I'm talking about it. And I've said to them, listen, man, I don't have that much power. I don't have that much reach. I'm not Gary V. You know what I mean? So like don't get mad at me. I collect what I love. That's just what I do. I collect what
Yeah.
I love and whatever it is I'm going through in the hobby,
Hmm.
that's what I'm talking about in the podcast. But I have all signed vintage behind me. I'm just going to
Oh
grab the
man,
closest one to me,
please.
and that's a Mickey Mantle
Oh gosh.
1958 tops, 58 all-star selection. I mean, this is an incredible card. I am so blessed and grateful to own this thing. Um, and I'll show off one more signed vintage. This
Please.
is this is one that, like, anytime I have it anywhere, it's usually the first one that people go to. It's kind of like a
Oh yeah.
showstopper.
Oh
It's the
yeah.
1980 tops. It's the Magic Johnson Larry Bird rookie with Dr. J. It's a three
Hmm.
panel card, and
Hmm.
this has got three signatures, auto grade 10.
Oh
So
gosh.
yeah, this thing is whew. So yeah, I got to be honest. I hope that more people don't get into graded vintage. If they do, great. I'll fully support them. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to see the supply dry up neither. Because it's stuff that I buy and I collect.
Hmm.
So
No, absolutely. So it's a good segue into the next question, which is from M. Garber, 1956, which is why do so many people get suckered into getting new cards slabbed? Again, you were kind of showing slabs of vintage cards, but I guess the question is kind of being like, oh my gosh, it's maybe an indictment on slab companies or grading companies.
new cards. Why do people get new cards slabbed?
Yeah,
Um, I mean, at the end of the day, the number on the slab
yeah,
is more than likely going to determine the value. Not more than likely, it's guaranteed to determine the
yeah,
value of the card.
yeah,
With vintage, it's different because vintage collectors buy the card, not the grade.
yeah.
So people will. I just bought this Willie Mays at the National. This card I probably paid. It's a SGC2. I probably paid an SGC4 comp for it, but
Hmm.
it's because I bought the card and not the grade. So it's the exact opposite with ultra modern. I don't know anyone that's like, no, well, you know what? I think I'm going to buy that. I think I'd prefer that PSA 8 over that PSA 10. I mean, it's all about the grade. So,
Gotcha. All right. So going for this nostalgia angle, and it's a great Instagram handle name, Game Day Nostalgia asks, how do I make sure to remain a collector who buys cards for the nostalgia?
well, if nostalgia is your thing, I'm pretty sure nostalgia will drive your collecting. But I'm guilty of it too. I listen. Nostalgia drives almost everything that I do, and every single purchase I make, it drives it. But I'd be lying if I said every once in a while a card will come across my feed and I will immediately start searching to try to buy it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an impulse buyer too.
Hmm.
But I think it's about, if you are an impulse buyer, it's about recognizing it. It's just like when someone has an issue with addiction, or if someone
Hmm.
has, some mental health stuff going on. The first step is actually recognizing and admitting there's an issue. So if you're an impulse buyer and you are frequently looking back, I impulse bought a card. Oh, I can't find it. I had it next to me just so I could show it off. Hold on.
Paint
Talk
paint us
for
a
a sec.
word
I'm gonna
picture.
find this
Okay.
card.
Well, I was going to ask you to paint us a word picture, but you have gotten up from your chair. You are looking through your extensive collection in the back. I can't even imagine. So a lot of what Rob does collect, he also sells at shows. Okay, go ahead. I
So
stretched.
I bought this card
Ooh,
2 weeks ago on eBay. This thing will never leave my side. I am never going to try to put it in a trade, even if someone offers me triple what I paid for it. It's a 2021 Topps Chrome Dominic Barlow Overtime Elite Purple.
yeah,
It's numbered out of 299. It's a PSA 10. I got it for like $8. Okay.
yeah.
The second I won this card, I go, why the heck did I even bid on that? And I'll tell you why. Because I saw 3 cards I liked from this consigner, and I'm like, I'm winning these cards. And you know what? The rest of these cards are going for dollars. So
Mm,
let me just start bidding on everything. You want to know what ended up happening? The 3 cards I actually wanted that I was certain I would get, I got overbid on. I didn't actually win any of that. The only thing I won was this freaking card. So I'm leaving this next to me right here. I'm leaving it next to me, and it's never leaving my side because it's a constant reminder to
reminder.
not just buy something just to buy it on eBay.
That's a great reason to have that card. I know we only have a couple of minutes, and I want to knock these three questions out if that's
Yep.
okay. Speaking about buying ultra modern, M of Mystery Breaks asks, why does Panini keep causing us pain and torment?
Um, I think greed. I think greed was probably a big part of it, and
Yeah.
hopefully Fanatics is going to relieve some of that burden from them.
I remain cautiously optimistic with them trying to do the long game, right? Short
Yep.
term, quarterly earnings. I mean, I understand people when you're corporate, you want to do that, but I remain cautiously optimistic that
Yeah.
they'll see the long game in this. Okay. Inspired Sports Cards asks, oh no. Let me end on that one. Sarah Rips asks, "Why did the Nuggets?" She wrote this in all caps. Sarah Rips of Nikki Rips and Sarah Rips. Shout out to them. Why did Why did the Nuggets win the finals, but all players besides Jokic went down? All caps.
Couldn't tell you, but I tell you what, I did watch this clip today of Jokic. I watched like this reel on Instagram, and it was just a compilation of like all his game day quotes and
Oh gosh.
interview segments. And
Yeah.
he basically admits that he does not enjoy playing basketball. He strictly looks at it as a job.
Mhm.
They asked him if he gives any kind of speeches in the locker room to try to
Yeah.
rally the his team and lead his team, and he just looked at him and said, "No." It's like the guy doesn't even want to be there. So I
What
tell
are the
you
two?
what,
Yeah.
as it, I don't know. I feel like he would probably be. I'm just glad I'm not collecting Jokic, even though he's an incredible talent. Incredible talent.
Shout out to Chris Hoge with that one. With two quotes. One is you work to live, not live to work. And then the second one that comes to mind is once you find what you love to do in life and you work with that, you never work a day in your life. So I
Hmm.
guess Jokic is gonna just keep working until he has enough money for his horses and he can just ride off into the sunset. So
Yeah.
this is the final question, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Just I hope people really enjoyed this episode as much as I had. I guess I'll call it a interview or therapy session with you. Last question is from Inspired Sports Cards asks, what does it mean if I'm checking the centering, corners, edges, and surface on all of our family photos now?
Oh, that's amazing. That is the perfect question to end on. That means you're a hobby enthusiast. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. I agree with that. I know last time you and I talked, you said you should have an outro. I don't really have a good one. I kind of like this whole like international listeners saying goodbye to them. So maybe that's my outro.
Cool.
But I did write it down because there's no way I know any Estonian, or I don't even know if that's what it's called. But to my Estonian listeners, can you please say goodbye in Estonian, which is huvasti?
Hufasti.
Oh, you almost said it like in a really good way. Rob, thank you so much. You are just again just so great for the hobby. Really appreciate you and your mentorship. Your friendship means a lot to me. It's really helped me grow in the hobby too. So, hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you everyone for tuning in. All right.
Dude, great job.